Going back to the Scherino piece that we looked at earlier, the Three Brilliant Nocturnes, this is an excerpt from the first movement. And Scherino studied electronic music in the 60s and 70s with a teacher whom he considered something of a father figure artistically. So we can hear that influence in the timbres he uses and the way that he juxtaposes very different sounds, almost like a collage. That's something that electronics are very good at, but it's often difficult to achieve with acoustic instruments. So to put this knowledge about a composer into practice, I would propose asking two questions that are pertinent at every level of the music. At the micro level of notes within a phrase, moving from one phrase to the next, and then at the macro level of building the narrative structure of an entire movement or an entire piece. At every level, we can ask, where is it going? And this is a question of direction. Are we moving toward or away? Are we beginning something, continuing, or ending? And we can also ask, what is it saying? And this is a question of emotional content. So are we creating tension or releasing it? What characters might we associate with this music? And I consider these to be really the same question posed in two different ways. So by no means mutually exclusive, although one form of the question might resonate better with certain people than others. And in classical music, there are questions that we often answer without even having to ask them. So let's take a concrete example of putting those questions into the learning of a piece. We'll stay with this excerpt from Scherino. And I'll just sort of walk you through the one possible thought process of learning this piece. So the opening gesture, we have these ornamented triplets. What's the character of these triplets? Are they lazy and held back? In which case we might play them like this. Or are they lumbering forward through that crescendo? Or are they rushing forward, kind of tripping ahead over their own feet? And how do we do that crescendo anyway? We're already molto ponticello, he writes at the beginning. So do we maybe come a little bit away from the bridge at the peak of the crescendo to add a little bit more bass to the sound? Or maybe not. Maybe we add a little bit of finger weight to that harmonic touch to get a little bit more of the real pitch. Or perhaps we stay ponticello, we stay in the harmonic touch, and we just increase the bow speed. Whichever option we choose, all of them viable options, whichever one we choose will create the palette for the rest of the piece and set the tone. So the next gesture, is it starting something new, in which case maybe we would leave a little bit of room for it, take a little time at the end of the opening gesture? Or is it interrupting that opening gesture? Do we go straight into it? And with that jeté, what are we aiming for exactly now? We might have decided about the opening gesture and the timing of the next one, but what is the composer getting at with the jeté? We're no longer ponticello, we're now ordinario, so maybe we want to make a contrast with the ponticello world and go for more pitch ringing in the sound. And in that case, as I talked about earlier, we'd have to calibrate certain parameters of our bow use, playing the gesture probably on a down bow, starting right at the middle of the bow, and using a lot of horizontal motion to get the notes to ring. But on the other hand, maybe we would prefer to stay in that sort of pitchless world of the ponticello opening and focus more on the texture and the rhythmic energy. In that case, we might reverse all those parameters that we just decided, so maybe we would start it on an up bow, where it will resist bouncing so freely. decide between those two alternatives, though? Well, let's look ahead, and we see that it's marked echo above, about halfway through that first line. So we're already triple piano. How do we make an echo from triple piano and still remain audible? One option is to create the illusion of reducing the dynamic by reducing the clarity of the pitch. So in that case, we could combine the two options that I just described. So the non-echo part might be very clear pitches. And then less clarity, starting up bow, resisting the bouncing in the echo part. That's one valid way of interpreting it. Perhaps, though, we're not so interested in remaining audible. Maybe we're really more interested in the theatricality of having the audience see that you're playing, but not hear the sound, wondering whether you're really playing. And in that case, we would maybe drop the volume of that first jeté gesture and have the echo be, frankly, inaudible. And these are all valid ways of interpreting that first line, but you see we had to look beyond the micro level of how do we do that jeté. We had to look to how it connects with the next gesture in order to get any kind of meaning out of it. Another detail in that first line is the arpeggios that come at the end of each triplet figure, and he marks them extremely light, leggerissimi. So we can ask the question of direction in those two. Are they leading to the next triplet figure? Or are they making an ending, coming away? Do they just hang suspended in midair? So if we look at the title of the piece, essentially we could choose to treat each of those triplet figures as one single star hovering suspended, or we could choose to treat them as a constellation all connected in a long line. Either way, valid, but it's for the performer to choose. And that sense of looking from one level to another, a micro level to a more macro level, in order to find meaning, brings me to my last point, which is the importance of understanding